resveratrol grape skin extract. You will be surprised what is in this. You heard the expression French paradox, perhaps. And this was so paradox because French eat different, for example, from other people, from Germans or from Swiss people. And despite of eating a little bit this and that, they have less cases of atherosclerosis. And so we thought, okay, Frenchmen are looking like this, and their scientific studies are perhaps also like this, a bit strange, but it is not so. Indeed, the solution of this enigma is the red wine, the resveratrol. And so, if you look at this, what is resveratrol amongst other effects doing? It modifies even genetic or markers that are responsible for the regeneration. And this is something interesting, that it's a regenerative effect. So everyone, well, except from those who cannot drink alcohol, should have a bottle of red wine from AFC tonight, I think. But look at this. Thank you for the offer. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, look at it. What nature can do for us is enormous. Yeah, we have not just a little antioxidant effect, which, by the way, is also due to resveratrol. We have highly active effects on regeneration. We have anti-tumor effects through substances that you know well. We have downregulation through of pro-cancer genes through our intestinal flora. This is really something. So I like these slides especially because no one asks then some questions. But just look on the headlines. This is serious research. Resveratrol has effects in cases of neurological diseases and problems of cognitive performance. It works in case of obesity, which means you can drink a bottle of wine every day and become slim. Well,
halal teman-teman.
This is the best known effect on cardiovascular disease with a obviously lower quota of sclerotic deposits in cardiovascular, in cardiac vessels. So it is working on this inflammatory process, which is the beginning of the disease. And cholesterol, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is a consequence and not the origin. Do not forget. Yeah. It works in cases of cancer. Many of you know this. We have, in the meantime, in Switzerland, also the possibility to give it as an infusion, the resveratrol. So this is certainly an important factor for the future. And again, referring to the acute situation that interests us all, is that it helps also to stabilize cells that have been infected by the virus. We will go very quickly over this. It helps to be safer and to be safe from reinfection. This is also what a study here shows, and this is absolutely smashing. There is no classical remedy that can say the same. On kiwi, you know, it is well known for its effect on digestion and so on. It has a particular effect on regenerative effects of the skin, of rehydration and many more. But what, for me as an elderly gentleman, as I can admit easily, is particularly interesting, that is kiwi has a good effect on the 5-alpha reductase. And what is the problem, or what is important in this? You know, 5-alpha reductase makes from testosterone the dihydrotestosterone. So testosterone, 5-alpha reductase, and dihydrotestosterone reaction.
Meningkatkan testosteron di dalam tubuh kita dengan 5-alpha reductase.
And what happens if that is the case? We have prostate hyperplasia, we have perhaps prostate inflammation and prostate cancer. So another effect that I was already mentioning is the good effect on the production of sebum, so it's also useful against acne. Well, and this is a nice example for how it works, that you can see before and after. You can see that you have an impressive improvement, especially of the moisture of the skin. Dry skin, elderly skin has a big benefit, especially when you have the famous dark circle under the eyes. Everything that has to do with the acne problem. Yeah. You remember perhaps what I said about fibroblast being a kind of stem cell in ourselves. Kiwi improves the activity of fibroblasts. Fibroblasts that produce hyaluronic acid and reproduce the extracellular tissue is improving under kiwi extract.
Kiwi ekstrak akan meningkatkan fibroblast kita yang membantu juga untuk seluruh kesehatan kita, intinya seperti itu.
Yeah. And by the way, it has also a slight, however existing anti-inflammatory effect, which is like, not as strong, but it has an effect like indomethacin, you know, which is an old anti-inflammatory remedy, which I don't know whether it still exists, but it serves as a reference product here. So it's basically just white garlic that had been too long in the sun, and it has also the famous allicin in it, with these well-known and long researched
black garlic
effects. But it has one enormously important characteristic more than his white brother. It can donate electrons. This is the white one, this is the black one, obviously. This is the white one, this is the black one. So the capacity to give electrons means capacity to give energy. Electrons are energy. Who knows what is the best electron donator, by the way? It's champagne, by the way. Very important, but it's a bit, it costs a bit too much.
Yeah.
Look at this. Also, black garlic has this ACE inhibitor quality, so it's a perfect component that works together with the bacteria. And you know what the meaning of these receptors is? Not only inflammation, but also high blood pressure or low blood pressure, so completely destroying the order of our autonomous regulation. Very interesting, especially for whom is dealing with beauty and anti-aging, is the capacity to improve different qualities of the appearance. And this is something which is extremely interesting, because it means that the salmon DNA can interfere with with the stem cells, with the regenerative cells of our extracellular space, the extracellular space. And what is in this extracellular space which is so regenerative? It's the fibroblast. And fibroblasts are continuously regenerating the cell at the extracellular space, which is, let's say, the bed where it can sleep, where it's nourished, where every cell is dependent on. That is fascinating, that this this product can enhance the activity of fibroblasts. I have a little bit some ideas about fibroblasts and what they can do, because I was for a long time in contact with one of the most important researchers on this area. So this is something which has really some renewing, regenerating capacity. Yeah. You can see, I think this it was really one of the greatest researchers on this area, and it was a very good personal friend, and he would be excited. He is in heaven now. He would be excited if he could see what this is doing. And here's some examples for what this product can do in only a few weeks. Which
Dan hebatnya
if I had known this years ago, what a beautiful man I
andai
could be.
dia tahu hal ini.
I did not completely decode, I did not completely understand this, but one thing is for sure, that it improves all the qualities that have to do with fertility. And I can promise you, seriously speaking, really seriously speaking, that we will have problems with fertility more and more and more. And if we see this, the enhancement of the activity, we must think that we will obviously have an impact on the mitochondria of the sperms, and this is something really extremely interesting because this means it's an energy bomb. Yeah? I was really astonished to see how well it fits into this composition. Well, number one is again, an anti-tumor effect because, again, it's acting on NK cells. And among the different algae that had been researched, it can also interfere positively with the production of interleukins. And you will again read IFNG, so interferon G. So it will, however, not cause an inflammation. You remember what I said before about IFNG or interferon G, and there is, however, no excessive reaction because of other ingredients that balance it. So there are different slides now we can go through quickly, and they show that it has, as you can already imagine, a very strong antiviral in general, not only influenza, but antiviral activity. It suppresses the invasion of virus in general into membranes. And you heard about our first products, the bacteria, that also stabilize membranes. So this is protection. Well, some examples for what it's doing. And of course there is effect. We should mention this. There is effect of conventional medicine as well. You know this product, oseltamivir, as Tamiflu. But let me say one thing. If I had a choice between Tamiflu and algae, I would prefer algae. Why? Because with algae, no one gets crazy, no one jumps out of the window or has neurological defect. More about the positive effects in cases of hepatitis C, for example, which is an ideal object to study on. You see here the reduction of these transaminases. This means, although you did not study on this, but this means that it has an effect on the intracellular energy production of liver cells. This means it has an effect on mitochondria. So different slides which show that we have less destruction of cells, for example, and that we have a quick normalization of damaged cells. Today we can measure this with different parameters. Cells repair quick with fucoidan. So we can go very quickly. This is interesting because it shows a study about the product as a whole, not only one single extract, and it shows that we have an improvement of different immune parameters in general. I personally do very intense checks, especially on NK cells, but also on the rest, on different lymph cell parameters, as you can see. And this is something very helpful to see whether a product, whether any therapy, not only products, oral products, work or not. So this could be the future to monitorize this kind of therapy with advanced possibilities of the laboratory. Now, and now we have something which helps to improve this, but in a completely different way. And this is something really, when I first read this, I thought, well, this is nuts, this is nonsense. But I must say the scientific papers about this are really convincing, and this is about the marine placenta. You all know, ladies and gentlemen, and I, as arriving nearly here on the right part of this
Katanya
axis,
dia bilang,
I know this better than many people in here. You are all young. You know not about this. From 40 years on, we have an important decline of hormones, even if we are not aware, and even especially we men would never say that it is so. So all this is going down, except from one, which is cortisol, and you know very well that this is catabolic, which means on the long run it will take away power. And so we have, if we want to become healthy and for a long time healthy, remember this number I showed you before, 59 is the average of, so if we want to fight against this premature aging, we have to do something with products, no matter what it is. I have other products, but we have here something with outside effects and with good effects on the whole organism. And look at this, what placenta does. I deal with placenta products, and so I not dealing, but I treat. And so this is all influenced by placenta. This is enormous, which means also that you save money. If you would replace this all orally, for example, or with transdermal systems and so, imagine what you might spend for these things. I do not say that you can... I do not say that oral replacement therapy is not good. I do it on myself, by the way, with bioidentical hormones, and I wish it would work a bit better. Yeah, of course. But I try with marine placenta now. Oh, yeah. No, but so just to give you an impression of how large the effect of this product is. Yeah. And never forget, this is one of the final slides, you can wake up now. This is extremely important, and this alone explains the role of cortisol and cholesterol, for example, in this whole. Last scientific of the last word. What is in the placenta from this fish? All the essential amino acids. So that is something extremely important. And one thing I want just to take out, which is lysine, because lysine has an antiviral effect. Lysine as an amino acid can help to fight viral disease. The only thing that is different is the lack of cysteine. But as you will see, there is glutathione in it, which is the most important detoxifier of the liver. When I first heard of UTSUKUSHHI, which was last year, I thought, well, this is a product like so many vitamins and minerals and bacteria. But when I now, even in this situation that we have now, when I dealt again with this medication, with this product, so I learned there is really something to it. Otherwise I would not have come so far to talk about this, because it is something very special, and seriously speaking, we will have need of those products that help us really. Well, that's me, so we can skip this.
Oh, no. Don't skip, please.
Well, This was some years back, as you can see, and I should take some UTSUKUSHHI to look like that again. And so we necessarily come to UTSUKUSHHI, the matter of tonight. You might ask, of course, why do we deal with that? What is the reason? Is it important what we do? And these are real numbers. This is not invented by some old doctor from Switzerland. This is what insurance companies say. So what does this say, ladies and gentlemen? What does this say? It means that medicine, and I now for 40 years I'm a doctor, medicine has made something wrong. I do not say that we as doctors, that we as therapists are things doing the wrong way intentionally. We know that medicine can save lives like it never could be or never did perhaps before when it's about acute diseases. But these are chronic situations, and that is dominant. That is completely different to 50 years back. We are unfortunately at the point where we must say that perhaps 1/3 of people that die in hospitals from internal disease, 1/3 is dying because of medicine. And now let this slide make a little effect on you.
Biar slide ini menjadi efek buat anda semua.
Only a few years back, in 2005, we had a life expectancy of around 80 years, let's say, and the expectancy of a rather good life of around 70 years. Now we can expect a little more today. Let's say perhaps 81.8 years. But look at the next. What is the expectancy for a good life in good quality, in autonomy? This one. I did not invent this. This is statistics. So we have to do something in order to preserve ourselves, our health, and the health of people that trust us. It has come so far because we still think in this way. Medicine still thinks we are a machine. We are using tools to repair something. We put out something and put something else in and think this machine will go on. And this goes as far as thinking that we can even interfere with DNA because DNA is everything. Well, try and you will fail. You will fail.
Yeah.
There is an influence on the DNA, but we can do it, and not some engineer in the laboratory. DNA is not our destiny. DNA is a part of our health because we have these things that can modify DNA. I will not say that there is any remedy, any tablet, any powder that can be a substitute for your emotional, for your mental health. To our friends and brothers and sisters that are of Muslim belief, I say fasting is important. It is important for our body. Exercise is important, nutrition is important, but also a very good therapy with those substances as I present them now. We start now with an interesting new aspect of UTSUKUSHHI, gold.
Dia akan menjelaskan tentang salah satu main ingredients dari probiotik UTSUKUSHHI ya teman-teman.
And there are many patents, so it's sure that it works. So we speak about health that first of all starts with what we take in. Look alone the surface of the mucous membrane, the inner surface of the intestine is far bigger than the surface of other important organs with great surfaces. We look immediately at the most important part that is interesting to us most.
Ya, kita akan ini mulai masuk ke dalam bagian ini. Mungkin dokter akan bantu juga nanti ya translate.
And I immediately refer to this structure, these so-called lymph patches. So, this is the end part of the small intestine where we find these things that are similar to our tonsils, the tonsils that you have in your mouth. And they have the same function. They are a contact with, in this case, the inner environment. Oops. And diagnosis starts from outside. Good therapists, as you are, know the difference between fresh and pink lips and when you have swollen lips or when you have pale lips like these. This is a picture from a patient with Crohn's disease, with chronic inflammatory bowel disease, by the way. Also, the tongue can give us enormously important information, as many of you know. We return to these tonsils of the small intestine. So, what is happening here? These lymphatic structures in the intestine, they produce immune globulin A, IgA, which serves to protect, together with other factors, the membrane, the mucous membrane of the intestine. But not only, these immune globulins are exported and arrive everywhere in our body, which means in the nose, in the eye, in the ear, in the lung, in the breast of women that are breastfeeding, of course in the intestine again itself, and also in the genitourinary system. So everywhere it is a protection. So just a number to threaten you. So many microbes, which are far more than our body cells. This is impressive. And we know today that these many microbes can have contact, give information even to our DNA. So this is really epigenetics. So we have to live well, we have to care for the information of our intestine, because this has an effect on our DNA, and what the DNA then creates. Okay. So some names that you certainly know, like E. coli, the most famous perhaps. He is a sort of pioneer. He is preparing the terrain for other bacteria. And all the other types, and there are far more, 500 different families, they have different influence on our immune system, on white blood cells, and so on. But the influence, the negative impact, is really important. We have, of course, intestinal infections, but this is today in our world, as we live here, not the biggest impact. We have, especially in big cities like Jakarta, toxins mainly from heavy metals, mercury, lead, cadmium, highly toxic substances to the nerve system and to the intestinal bacteria. But do not forget, civilization will take what it wants. Radiation, ladies and gentlemen. Switch off this at least during the night. This harms your intestinal flora. Dressy lifestyle, people that have their phone on even during the night to read what their patients write, or so they will have problems. Why? Why? It's very simple, you know that all. What is stress? Physiologically, it's adrenaline. Yeah? It's running, it's fighting, and it's hence blocking the intestine. this very quick. These are diseases that are, in the meantime, acknowledged to be a consequence of a bad intestinal flora. So this is what I mainly in my clinic see is asthma, is bronchitis, is sinusitis, is even tonsillitis. Here we have the problem of food intolerance, very, very well represented, by the way, and so on. But especially skin problems, there is no patient with psoriasis without severe damage on his intestinal flora. In the days before antibiotics exist since the 1930s, when the first sulfonamides were detected. In this area before, probiotics were the only really working remedies against recurrent urogenital infections. So meantime, also the sophisticated and highbrow doctors in universities are aware of the importance, and they have to admit that a lot of disorders, including autoimmune disease, are dependent on the microbiome, as it is called, so the intestinal flora. So we speak about this nice guy, which is interestingly isolated from salmon. And you will see some very interesting things. Normally, these slides tend to distract the audience, but I try to make it as clear as possible. So what do we see here? We see here that these kind of bacteria can help to improve the production of nitric oxide, and it has a special effect also on protecting membranes, protecting cell membranes, and this is really something absolutely striking that bacteria can do this. So when we hear nitrogen, we might perhaps be a bit confused, but since a few years we know that nitrogen has enormously important physiological functions. And I just want to mention two things: the improvement of the microcirculation, and it improves also the activity of white blood cells. The white blood cells that belong to our inborn, to our natural and non-specific immune system. Of course, one must say that if we have too much of this nitrogen oxide, this can be harmful. So a permanent stimulation can be harmful, so it needs modifiers. But the modifiers, which means that we don't have harm through nitrogen oxide, are also in these products. Completely other discussion now. When I was young, which is unfortunately 100 years back, I think, we said, well, taking bacteria, that's nonsense, and we can even, because our stomach will destroy this. Fortunately, the good bacteria that we have here, they survive the stomach and also the bile from the gallbladder. That's important, and that's not so easy. That sounds well, it survives this, but imagine what is acid of the stomach. It's extremely acid. It's nearly as acid as Coca-Cola. So if I swallow a little coin, it will dissolve in the stomach. But a few centimeters later, there is the bile, which is extremely alkaline. And both these extreme situations are survived by the bacteria, so they are safe in their effect. So what they are doing now, they are then acting as scavengers, as catchers for the black side of the oxygen, so to say. They are catchers of the radicals. Of course, not alone. We have many enzymes. But it is important to know that they are capable of interfering with what finally would lead to destruction of cell membranes, the lipid oxidation. This is a more impressive slide, which says basically the same, that it is capable of blocking the radical oxygen species, ROS, radical oxygen species. So the next one is also very interesting because it has this cholesterol lowering effect. So why? I ask you, why can a bacteria do this? One might say perhaps it is eating cholesterol in the intestine. Not a bad idea, but it doesn't eat cholesterol. So the effect is, when we have the anti-inflammatory, the anti-oxidative effect, our body produces less cholesterol. That's the thing behind. And why should it produce cholesterol, our body? It's very simple. You all know the answer. You are perhaps confused, but it produces cholesterol in order to produce cortisol. And if I have an inflammation, I need cortisol. So if we have an antioxidative, anti-inflammatory effect, we have automatically lowering of cholesterol. So that's it. Moreover, it is capable, this bacterium, moreover, this bacterium in particular, I love this because nobody understands it, so nobody makes a question. No, but basically it shows that it improves the NK cells. And all of you know that we have to do with many pathologies, starting from cancer over many other things that have, unfortunately, or that create, or that are a consequence of a low NK cell level. And you see this example of how it works even in situations that make us, perhaps even me, a bit fear. If a patient comes with hepatitis C, I think, oh, that's something difficult. Yeah, it is difficult, no doubt. And we have to do many things for those patients, but we have also this good effect on activating the natural killer cells. What is not mentioned in this presentation, but what is also in UTSUKUSHHI, is vitamin D, which is also an enhancer of NK cell activity. So it is complementary to the effect of these bacteria. And this is a histological picture which shows the progression of an infective disease, normal tissue which suffers severely from an infection, which is treated with placebo, so saline solution, and tissue which has been treated with the extract from these bacteria. And so alone with that, you see the Kaplan-Meier curves on this side, the Kaplan-Meier curve, which shows the improvement of the survival rate. This is impressive. So imagine when you do all what you are doing in your practice or in your pharmacy and whatsoever, what you are doing with your patients, if you combine this, you have a far better standing, you have a far better result in the combination with UTSUKUSHHI. So this gentleman more or less is well known to everybody because the old Chinese guys, the old Chinese doctors were aware of this. They knew already that the intestine, you know, this is the meridian of the colon, and there's of course that one of the small intestine, is connected to the meridian of the lung, and of course to the stomach, and of course to the spleen. And so this is the explanation why we should also, in the situation of virus impact, no matter whether it's SARS-CoV-2, 3 or whatsoever, we must also treat the intestine, because these patients show a characteristic decline of good bacteria and an increase of bad bacteria that produce putrefaction and inflammation in the gut. And this, by the way, this situation with these bacteria high and the other ones low, you will find in elderly people, they tend to have high Clostridia and low bifidus and low everything that we have heard so far. So this means for elderly people, this is especially important to care for. Now something which will interest perhaps especially doctors, and this was very striking to me. This was really fascinating because you all heard about inflammatory storm. So we learned this inflammatory storm is caused by the virus, and in some cases it can be caused by injections as well, because we have this interference, this contact between the virus and these receptors of the ACE, angiotensin converting enzyme receptors of cells. What is happening then? We have a liberation of interleukins, especially of interferon gamma. You all heard this name. And an overwhelming production of this interferon gamma. And our good bacteria are capable of blocking this so that this reaction does not happen. This is something really incredibly useful. We will quickly go over these, and I think that is really something you should always talk about, because everybody says, well, interferon gamma is very important, and we have patients that have this as a remedy, and we are then surprised that they quit the therapy because of side effects. And these side effects are exactly what is happening when they have the virus or when they have shots that they do not support well. And this is where this product can be very helpful to prevent from excessive effects. Oh, I skipped the slide before because it repeats only what I said before. But look at this, this is important. These are two mice, these are sister and brother, or perhaps two brothers. And this one with good intestinal flora, and this one with bad. So in the future I can say, well, it's just my bad bacteria.